Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Monday, December 11th, 2023 meeting of the Greenwood Advisory Plan Commission. First order of business, is to turn down my cell phone. Pardon me. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from November 13th, 2023.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve those minutes by Monica. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Mr. Probst. All in favor, please show sign of raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Passes 8-0 with one abstention. Next on the agenda is special requests for continuances. Seeing none. Fourth item on the agenda is finding of fact. And seeing none, we'll go to old business. Seeing none, we'll go to old business from the floor. Seeing none, we'll go to new business. First item on the new business is PC docket 2023-061 Seven Brew landscape waiver. This is a public hearing.
It is not.
Oh, it's not, it's a landscape. It's a public hearing.
It is not a public hearing.
Sorry about that. It's not a public hearing. So who is presenting this information for us?
I'm Bill Perry with Y Engineers, 10505 College Avenue, Canada, Mississippi. I believe I sent the 720.
IT, could you pull up the site plan for Seven Brew?
I am listening to the meeting and I will call you back.
Yes, thank you.
So on the south side, with the cooler next to the building, we could get about a 5-foot strip of foundation planes. So we proposed to put it up at the northeast corner along 135 to give extra lighting blockage from the drive-through at night, whatnot, or early in the mornings.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I notice that the staff recommends approval for this petition.
Correct. The petition is for a minimum width of 10 feet along the full foundation facing a street. This is a drive-through coffee shop. Staff felt that requirement is hard for a coffee shop with a drive-through to meet. 10 feet is quite a distance, and we are favorable in having that relocated elsewhere on the site.
Would be more important if the site was much closer to 135, I take.
Yeah, and there won't be really foot traffic
Right.
walking up to the business.
Right.
It is a drive-through business with drive
Okay.
miles.
If there are no questions or comments from the commission, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. President, I move that the request of Seven Brew for a waiver of the requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance, Greenwood Municipal Code, Chapter 10, Article 25, Division 3, generally applicable regulation, Section 10-03-06, landscaping and buffering G foundation plantings, that specifies that commercial properties under 25,000 square feet shall have a minimum 10-foot wide landscaping strip along the full length of a foundation facing the street to permit relocation of the plantings required along the portion of the building facing State Road 135 to other areas on the site, because the physical constraints of the site reduce available foundation planting area, and the required foundation plantings limit the proposed double drive-through use, impact ingress and egress, and ability to meet setbacks and minimum impervious lot requirements be approved, and that the Plan Commission find that Seven Brew has met the criteria set forth by Greenwood Municipal Code Section 10-04-03K for the waiver for the reasons set forth in its request for waiver and as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any last comments or questions by anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 9-0. Good luck. The next item on the agenda is PC 2023-067, change in commitments. This is a case where Bob Tiplick Incorporated, the petitioner, requests a change in commitments to remove language prohibiting liquor stores. In this case, this is a public hearing. We will allow 15 minutes of oral presentation for the petitioner. That will be followed by a 15-minute rebuttal for the remonstrators. There will then be a 5-minute rebuttal by the petitioners, and then a 5-minute rebuttal by the remonstrators to close up any oral discussion on this. So for the petitioners, anybody who's willing, who's coming to speak, please stand and be sworn in at this time. That's for-
Anyone.
For
if you're
anybody
going
for
to
the
speak
entire
for or against,
topic.
Stand and have it open, minister.
That's my Judy the best knowledge.
Please come forward.
Good evening, Eric Prime, Van Baylor Law Firm, on behalf of the petitioner Bob Tiplick Incorporated. With me this evening are Bob and Brian Tiplick and Greg Ilko from Crossroad Engineers, who's the engineer on the project. We're here this evening to discuss a potential change to a set of commitments that were entered into 20 years ago when Olive Branch Park was developed. Let me orient you to this. I can pull up the All right, so this is Olive Branch Park as it exists today. It is a platted commercial subdivision consisting of Olive Branch Park Drive and curving into Allier Lane as it heads out to 135 to the north. Most of the lots have been developed over the last 20 years. There's still two that back up to Heron Ridge on the west side of Olive Branch Park Drive, and then there are lots to the north, which is what we're here about this evening. As you can see where it's really heavily treed on the north side there, the little area that it's open is the piece that we're talking about here this evening. So 2006, this is what the area looked like. This was right after it had been approved and the site work had been done, the streets were in and some of the utilities were in, but no development had taken place yet. In fact, just to give you a little history, this piece of ground originally was supposed to be another section of Heron Ridge. You can even see the stub street coming out of Heron Ridge to the west that kind of dead ends into the property. As it was developed for commercial uses, another accommodation was reached with the residents of Heron Ridge back then to not have the stub street go through. That was kind of a contentious issue. So instead, there's just a pedestrian access at that point to come out of Heron Ridge on foot and access the businesses that are in this area. So at any rate, when this was not going to be developed as a second section of Heron Ridge, the family, the Allier family that owned this property, and actually they were still living on it at the time, there were two single-family homes that aren't shown on here. They partnered with a developer to try to get the area zoned commercial. It was zoned residential at the time, and it was in the county as well. This was not in the city limits of Greenwood at the time of this initial rezoning. So when the developer put out the notices about potentially changing the zoning to commercial, obviously the folks in Heron Ridge and in Buckmore to the north were not super thrilled about the thought of the commercial uses coming in there when they thought it was all going to be residential. So lengthy negotiations were undertaken with the representatives of both of those constituencies, and those negotiations produced a set of commitments, and that those commitments allowed for the development to proceed and the rezoning to take place. So 20 years ago, all of this happened, and we got this, as I showed you already, this platted commercial development. Now, some of those restrictions maybe led to a little slowness in the area developing. It was pretty slow to build out, but it has mostly at this point, other than the very few lots remaining. The commitments weren't just no liquor stores, right? There was actually a laundry list of prohibited uses. So it was liquor stores, it was bars and taverns, it was adult bookstores, adult video stores, just a long list. I don't know if those even exist anymore. And auto sales, auto service and repairs. There was a lengthy list of things that were not to be allowed in there. And that was partly because the residents wanted some control over what was going to happen in there. If they were going to concede to a zoning change, they wanted to at least know those things wouldn't be done in there. And obviously in a vacuum, a lot of those things sound bad. Maybe you don't want them near your house. I think it's important though, and that's what we're here about this evening, is that not all things on that list are bad. And in fact, if they're done right, in this case, this liquor store, we believe it actually will be something that everybody around there will use and be happy about, and won't be any type of a burden on them. So that's what we're going to ask tonight, is to revisit that one prohibition against liquor stores. So in 2020, the census was done. Greenwood grew enough to actually merit another packaged liquor license. And that liquor license went up for public auction, and it was fierce. My clients were the winners of that auction. They paid almost $1 million just for the liquor license and the right to put another liquor store in the city limits of Greenwood. Once you have that kind of investment, you don't want to just put that license in a run-of-the-mill strip mall. You want to do something nice with it. And so they are planning to put in a store on that corner that will be in harmonious keeping with the other commercial development that is already there. They want to preserve as much of the tree line to the west and to the north as they possibly can. The buffer helps everybody, really. When you're talking about going from commercial to residential, there already is a 30-foot buffer yard in place. You can see at the very top of that exhibit, but we're committing to keeping as much of the tree line between the buffer and the back of the building as we can, so we just keep it as heavily treated as possible. But once we've had that auction win, if you want to call it spending $1 million a win, we were looking for a place that this made sense. And so that's how the Tiplicks landed on this open lot. It's been sitting vacant for 20 years. They kind of wondered about it. Part of the problem with this lot is it's covered by easements on, kind of bisected by easements at the top and the bottom running diagonally. And then the topography of the lot is very difficult because it falls off very quickly as you go north toward Buckmore. There's kind of a ravine down in there where all the trees are, and then it also falls off to the west as you go toward Heron Ridge, and that all is an area that's encompassed as a dry detention area and can't be built in anyway. So the lot is kind of, parceled in here, and all the building we've moved as far as we can to the south and to the east, and all of the parking will be on the south and the east. There will be no parking in the rear. The loading will be on the west elevation. There'll be a little drive that comes up, but no dock doors, no loading on the back side, on that north side. I'll show you those elevations here in just a second. This is just another, a little more detail, maybe a little easier to read. Look, you can see the drive for the loading and dumpster area there, and then the parking curving around, following the road curve on the south side of the building, and then a little bit of parking on the east side as well. So elevations, the building isn't 100% finished in the design, but this is going to be about a $3 million building when it's all said and done. This gives you an idea of this is looking sort of northwest. If you were standing on the corner of Ollier Lane and 135, gives you an idea of what that elevation will look like. Then this is the straight south elevation looking directly north onto the building, into the To the right side of there is the rear elevation over to a certain point, and then that last little bit on the far right is the west elevation. It's just the west side of the building. It's turned out so you can see it. This is the language that we're talking about. So really the only change to the commitments that we would be requesting this evening is to strike the words liquor stores from these commitments and allow this use. I think if you consider that they're putting $1 million into the license, they're putting $3 million into the building, at any given time, they'll probably have about $1 million worth of inventory in this facility. And so you're taking an unused, a vacant building lot and turning it into a thriving business that will produce jobs and assess value for the city. I think it makes sense, and it's already a platted commercial subdivision. So the idea for this store is that it will cater to a higher end wine, scotch, bourbon, very nice level of things that aren't necessarily found at most liquor stores. So craft beer, all of those things, because they've identified this area, kind of the fast growing southwest side of the city, as being a really good demographic area for folks that want to spend their money on those types of things and have those available. So this is going to be a first-class building and first-class business. And we think that it makes sense now that everybody can see it, feel it, know what it is, that even though there were commitments entered into 20 years ago to not allow, in theory, in stereotype, a liquor store, we believe this establishment actually will be of the type that will be a good addition to the city and a good addition to the area. So we would ask you to consider changing your commitments to allow for this.
Anybody else like to speak in favor of this? We'll go on to supply 15 minutes, up to 15 minutes for remonstrators who would like to speak in opposition. Anybody? Sir, I don't believe you were sworn in, though.
Was not.
You swear that is perjury, because we the best of your knowledge.
Mr. President, before he begins to speak, I'm going to be passing down 3 different letters that I've received in remonstration for you guys to view and to be sworn into the record. Please take one and pass them down, or maybe share with your next door neighbor. This area to show that or open up for them there.
Okay, can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Gunther Cunningham. Like 3067 Buttermore Parkway, Greenwood, Indiana.
Okay, please proceed.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Planning Commission Board. I stand before you today deeply concerned about the potential negative impacts of the proposed mixed.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Pardon?
Can you speak up a little, please?
I have been a proud resident of Bethmore Estates for 28 years, and I have witnessed firsthand the positive impact of our community of families and young people. The introduction of a liquor store, in my opinion, directly contradicts the commitment made to Bethmore Estates back in August 2003. At that time, one of the key conditions of zoning the real estate for business was the exclusion and prohibition of liquor stores. This commitment was crucial in ensuring the safety and well-being of our community and its surrounding areas. In my opinion, the liquor store could have a negative impact on our property values. This decline poses a significant financial threat to homeowners of Butmore Estates and all neighboring communities. Furthermore, the presence of a liquor store could alter the character of our community in undesirable ways. The type of clientele attracted by such an establishment may not align with existing businesses in Olive Branch Business Park. Additionally, the visual appearance of a liquor store may be an eyesore by many residents of the community. My final point of concern is the potential for increased traffic congestion on State Road 105. This already busy road is likely to see a significant increase in traffic due to the proposed liquor store, creating safety hazards and inconvenience for residents and communities alike. Therefore, I urge you, the members of the board, to seriously consider the potential negative impacts of this liquor store. Please uphold the commitment made to Butmore Estates in 2003 and prioritize the safety, well-being, and character of our community and surrounding areas. I believe that Olive Branch Business Park can thrive with more suitable business ventures that contribute positively to our environment and community values. I also have a petition I'd like to post to you. At the moment, we have 76 signatures.
So, a couple of petitions.
I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Anybody wants to look at it? Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Please come forward. Please state your name, address.
My name's Frank Cooper, 3018 Buckmore. I've been a resident for 27 years. And I agree with everything that Ken had to say. I just wanted to add a couple other points. That first of all, they talk about that tree line. Well, I live across the street looking at towards where they're going to put this liquor store. The months of November, December, January, February, and March, you see everything through there. Lights coming at you, everything. Okay, so that tree line for 5 months out of the year means nothing. We have had quite a few wrecks right out of there were several. There's a drive here where they're proposing. There's our drive. There's a condo complex across the street. There's apartments across the street. And all these cars are trying to merge at one time, and we've had an incredible amount of wrecks. Now you put a liquor store in there, and we're just going to add to that traffic mess. But the primary reason I'm standing here is because the three houses where this is going to back up to, this liquor store, the three houses, or four, actually three houses, they have little kids, okay? They have little kids and their backyards aren't very big, and they're gonna be looking right at this liquor store and all the stuff that happens around a liquor store. They're impressionable, okay? And I don't think they should be subject to something like that, okay? There are a lot of other places to put a liquor store. There's a lot of other places you can spend $1 million to put a liquor store, but not next to a neighborhood that's got children in it. That, quite frankly, the people do not want, okay? We don't want that liquor store there. So, but all the stuff that goes along with a liquor store, and they can say it might not happen, but there's crime, there's traffic, there's unsavory characters, and my wife, during COVID, she and a friend, they walked up and down the street up to where their place is gonna be in down, and they picked up trash along 135. The majority of what they picked up were liquor bottles and beer bottles. So you put a liquor store in there, you're gonna get the same thing, more of that. So, I just ask that you understand how the people living in this area feel and take that into consideration and vote no for putting a liquor store there. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, sir. Is there anybody else that wants to speak? Please stand up and all be sworn in at once like we asked originally.
I don't think they heard you. I barely heard you. I'm sitting in the front, so some of them might not have heard you.
Jim, you know, everybody has to swear.
So anybody else who's remaining wants to speak, please face Stevie and she'll swear you in at this point.
You swear I don't commit perjury.
Please stand.
Testimony true to the best of your knowledge. Okay.
I swear.
Can,
And I think we also had someone online as well.
Okay, we will get to that. We'll do that one next, okay?
I've never sat in this seat. I don't know the protocols. If I err, I'm sure you'll either forgive me or correct me. I speak for the residents of Heron Ridge. Heron Ridge is a wonderful 55 and older community. I moved here about 16 years ago, and it was important the kind of neighborhood we had. And it kind of found out that the development of the commercial area to our east was done with a set of commitments. These commitments were signed by the city, by the leaders of Buckmore, and by the leaders of Heron Ridge. And those commitments were important. And I think it was unfair to pass those off as something 20 years old and therefore no longer important. They were important then, and they are still important for all of the same reasons. I would be very concerned if the city would allow the commitment to be undermined by something like taking out some of the language that everybody agreed on. I don't know what that would say to everybody who's going to want to make any kind of commitment with the city in the future, but I think that would be a dangerous move. I really urge you on behalf of our residents to disallow this petition to go through. And I hope I've made myself somewhat clear. Thank you.
Could you repeat your name and address?
Yes, it's Jim Martin, James Martin. Thank you.
And your address, please?
Jim,
Mr.
your
Martin.
address?
Oh, my address. Well, it's in Heron Ridge, 1549 Heron Ridge Boulevard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Nelson said there's someone online.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Could you give us your name and address,
My
please?
name is Ernie Locke. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Turn it up.
Can you, has he been sworn in?
I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you swear to use perjury? Testimony is true to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Locke, please proceed.
Understand. Sorry, we've got two computers in one room and it's getting a little confusing here, but I appreciate what has been said on both sides. I certainly side with the side that would like to disallow this change. What the last gentleman said, I would like to reiterate that the commitment was made 20 years ago, and I have not heard anything substantive that would make sense to change that commitment. People still live here. The issue of having a store like that in this area, nothing has changed in the last 20 years that would make sense now that made any different sense then. I apologize for not being there. I'm sick, so I didn't want to come in and pass it to everybody else. But again, I haven't heard a good argument that would make sense to change the commitments that were already there. And I agree that it's a dangerous, I don't know if it's a precedent actually, but a precedent to set to change commitments that have been in existence just because someone else has taken control of the property. It kind of makes any commitment that you have with a municipal body of no effect. It can just be changed not at a whim, but at an argument, just because someone else now has control of the land. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 3 minutes left. So 3 minutes, we'll move on to something else. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for allowing us to speak our minds.
Could you state your name and address?
I'm Joe Brown. You have a letter from me as a demonstrator. I just want to reiterate that in the current area, there are 23 businesses which are primarily customer oriented. And this proposed usage is not compatible with the other usages in Olive Branch Park. Most of them are not retail. There's a couple, but most of them are service oriented. There are also other places they can buy alcohol. There's Myers, Walmart, there's Kroger's, all a half mile down the road. So there's no reason why you should have a liquor store in a subdivision or next to a subdivision. This liquor store is going to adjoin my property in the very corner. This has a drainage easement in the back. And the trees are there for a purpose. And if he takes it out any trees, it could affect that whole drainage area. Buckmore could be affected, Heron Ridge could be affected. So, thank you.
We still have another minute or so if anybody would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Eads. I'm the president of the Buckmore Manor HOA. I live at 3313 Buckmore Manor. I moved here 17 years ago after I got promoted from my job with the FAA. I was in Fort Wayne. Prior to that, I lived on the east side of Greenwood. And I came back to Greenwood, and it took me a while to find a place that I wanted to live. As soon as I found Buckmore, there was no place else to go. I wanted to stay in Buckmore because of the wholesome community that it is. Since I have lived here, I have looked at the records. There's been a turnover in Buckmore of approximately 55% of the homes. They've gone from older folks to younger folks with kids. The majority of our people that live there now
have young children that go to school. If you remember a couple years ago, a young high school student, senior, pulled out of our addition onto 135 and got T-boned and killed right there at that intersection. The traffic down 135 gets larger and larger every day, and it gets faster and faster every day. There's no monitoring on the speed limit. It's 45 miles an hour is the speed limit. If they're not doing 60, they get run over. They come flying down the hill from up by Smith Valley, and on they go southward. I'm here to ask you, do not approve this change of commitment. The residents in that community deserve nothing less. I can't see anything positive that a liquor store in that community would promote. And I hope there's nothing that would be favorable for you for having a liquor store in that area. Thanks for your time.
That closes our 15-minute remonstrators period. We'll move on now to a 5-minute rebuttal by the petitioners. Is there anybody from the petitioners who'd like to come forward?
Again, for the record here, Brian Van Bailey Law Firm. A couple points here. I certainly didn't say the commitments were worthless or because they were 20 years old, we shouldn't pay attention to them. What I did say was that the commitments themselves have language in them that says who may enforce them and who may amend them. There is a process in there. That's what we're doing here today. This is the process. There's a public hearing, there were notifications. This isn't something that happens undercover or in a smoke-filled room somewhere. That's why they were set up that way. So if something does change or there's a reasonable reason to make a change, that's what this process is about. We believe that the specific use that we are proposing with the amount of money and investment that we're making in this, it's not a run-of-the-mill liquor store. It's not that broad category that was prohibited. It is a specific thing that these folks now have had a chance to see and understand and know what we're planning. So it's not a hypothetical, right? It's not the fear of the unknown. You know what it is, and that's why we're here. And I would suggest to them certainly that we're happy to discuss specifics with them in between this meeting and the city council meeting that will take place. So I'd like to get some names of the folks that are in charge, and we'd certainly like to sit down with them. We tried to do that. I had a meeting scheduled with a representative from Buckmore on last Friday, but he unfortunately had to cancel, so we haven't had the dialogue yet, but we're happy to do so. Some of the other concerns, traffic, looking at a building through the trees, those are going to be there regardless of what business comes in. And this is a platted commercial lot. Well, businesses that are allowed in the zoning or not prohibited by the commitments can come in there. There wouldn't even be this hearing. There would not be any public meeting. They would just go and get their site plan approved and put their business in. So this does give the folks that are nearby a chance to have some input about what's going on. And as I said, we're happy to have that discussion with them. As far as not being aligned with other businesses, there is a pizzeria and tap room that's been there for quite a while. They serve a decent amount of alcohol. There's a chili water fruit tap room also in there. So it's not like this is going to stick out like a sore thumb. There are other alcohol uses in that commercial subdivision. So I think that addresses most things. It's just, I mean, traffic's going to be there. 135 was improved with the assuming that this entire commercial subdivision will be built out. So those improvements were already made, and it's not going to increase the load that road can't handle. If and when all these other lots that are still open in there develop out, they were done with that in mind. So I think that's where we are. It's just a matter of whether or not folks are going to be comfortable with the use that we're proposing. We think it's a good one.
Thank you. Anybody else from the petitioner wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to a 5-minute rebuttal by the remonstrators. Is there anybody who would like to say something else? Sir?
10 seats, 3313 Buckmore Parkway. Again, I would like to urge the board to consider that right across the street from this proposal is an apartment complex. There's no crosswalk to get across the 135. I have seen people trying to cross that street. It's a 4-lane highway, and I'm telling you, the cars go fast. And it's a wonder somebody hasn't been run over recently. So again, consider the liquor store right there in an apartment complex across the road. Are they gonna drive over? No. They're gonna try and walk over, which is gonna put a burden on other resources here in the city of Greenwood, which doesn't make any sense. You know, there's another liquor store just down the road, 3/4 of a mile. There's another one down toward County Line Road. And there's plenty of other places to buy liquor. And I forget the name of the petitioner. I think it's Tiplick. He does not have a reputation for high end. His other places are not high end places. So his reputation precedes him, and it's not a good reputation. So again, I implore you, do not approve this change of commitment. Thanks.
So we'll have a couple minutes if anybody else wishes to speak in rebuttal.
This is Ernie Locke online again.
Yes, Ernie, go ahead.
Just real quickly, I have a little bit of research. It's from a website, galaxyprotection.com. It says, according to the Crime Prevention Service business at the School of Criminal Justice at Rutgers University, the 5 types of businesses that are most likely to be robbed are supermarkets, gas stations, convenience stores, liquor stores, and jewelry stores. So there is a concern that this would potentially increase crime in the area. There is a concern that because it is a liquor store, high end or not, that there's a greater likelihood of impaired drivers in the area, speaking to the idea of additional traffic. I agree that no matter what business goes there, it will probably increase traffic. However, this is more likely to be impaired drivers. Additionally, this is actually a volume store, which to me speaks of a higher traffic than a different type of store. Although again, other stores can go in there that may provide as much traffic that are not prohibited by the current commitments. But I believe for those reasons that a liquor store is the wrong establishment to put in this location. Being high end, there's no specific definition for that. My assumption is they will also carry regular beers and wines and things that a quote unquote grab and go liquor store would carry. There's no guarantee that they're not going to carry those things. So just because it's high end, it does carry the higher end stuff, doesn't mean they're not going to carry the low end stuff too, so long as it's profitable. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. We have about a minute if anybody has something that we have not heard before. Think nothing. Close the public hearing. Commissioners or staff? Yeah.
Staff, Gabe Nelson, Planning Director. Staff does provide an unfavorable recommendation regarding the change to the commitments. I would like to clarify one thing, just since it was mentioned. This was placed by Johnson County. It used to be in the county. That's when these commitments were made. It was later annexed into the city of Greenwood. Following state code, it does need to go to our Plan Commission for a public hearing and then to Common Council. But we did not originally sign the commitments. But staff does feel that we should respect the original intent of the Johnson County Commissioners and the people that likely fought to have these commitments put in place. Thank you.
Any commissioners have something to add or? Questions?
Got one, I don't know the answer to it. The commitments around not having a liquor store and some of these other things, which I don't remember all of them. But with the bar that's there now, was that part of the commitment and did it get changed at some point or was that, is a restaurant bar okay?
So less than 50% of their.
Yeah, so the commitment does read that accepting restaurants deriving less than 50% of the gross revenue from liquor sales. I right now do not have their gross revenue available to review.
Just curious, what would the hours be?
10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
10 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the record.
Sunday noon to 8.
Nothing else in that area, doesn't matter.
Sunday noon to 8.
Any more questions? Seeing none, I would accept a motion at this point in time.
Mr. President, I move that the petition for change in commitments to remove the prohibition on liquor store use for Block B of the Olive Branch Park re-subdivision of Block B, Greenwood, Johnson County, Indiana, as set forth therein, receive an unfavorable recommendation from this commission to the Greenwood Common Council, and that the same be certified to the Greenwood Common Council in the form presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. King, a second by Monica. All those in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. The unfavorable commission recommendation will be forwarded to the council. The next item is PC 2023-068. It's a zone map change. Greenwood Plus Center LLC is petitioner.
Hi, good evening. Justin Zabrowski here on behalf of Greenwood Plus Center LLC.
Mr. Lang?
No, Zabrowski.
Oh, Zabrowski, we're gonna hold up for just a moment here while people file out.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, let's proceed with the zone map change.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna, can't share my screen. If I'm able to, I have some materials that'll help, but I can get started without it. So the parcel we're discussing currently has the Sherwin-Williams outlot outside of Greenwood Park Mall. What we're requesting today is a change from the zoning of commercial large to commercial medium. And there's really two reasons why we're requesting this change. One, the lot itself is 0.72 acres, which is about 31,000 square feet. So we're below the minimum requirement for commercial large of 100,000. And if you guys are able to see my screen, okay. So it's below the 100,000 minimum for commercial large, but it's within the square footage requirement for medium, which is a 20,000 minimum to 100,000 maximum. And the second reason has to do with the setbacks associated with each zoning. So Sherwin-Williams, to be clear, there's no intention of redeveloping. It's been in place since 1980. They have term through 2035. But on the chance that that would no longer be in place and we would be in a position to redevelop the site, as you guys can see from the drawing here with the red, which is the commercial large setbacks, it's quite a limiting area of the parcel we would have to work with, as opposed to if we are able to proceed with the change. You can see with the commercial medium, it's a more appropriate setback and allows us the ability to redevelop should that come in line down the road.
Okay, anything else?
No, those are the 2 points for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else to speak? Oh, no, he wasn't.
Mr. Zabrowski,
Yeah.
it's a little after the fact, but this is a public hearing item, so could you have the oath administered to you, and would you just confirm for us that everything that you said was true?
Yeah, happy to.
Do you swear on the penalties of perjury, testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
I swear.
Did he say I'm sorry?
I think he did swear.
Oh, I swear. And you confirm that everything you have told us before you were sworn in is true?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We lost that.
I'm sick with an attorney, I gotta ask. Is there anybody else who wants to speak in favor of this? Seeing none, is there anybody who wishes to speak against? Seeing none. Close public hearing. Anybody from Mr. Nelson?
Gabe Nelson, Planning Director. Staff is favorable of this petition. This is going to better conform with our standards. This was previously a conforming business, a conforming use. In 2020, our zone map did change. It was then a non-conforming use. It was a legal non-conforming use, so it could continue to operate. But to have everything free and clear and no worries, the petitioner would like to rezone to the lot, to the correct zone that best fits the property. Staff is supportive of this, and we have a recommendation in the staff report.
So this helps the city, it meets the zoning ordinance more clearly. It helps the business owner because it loosens his handcuffs on any future changes he'd like to make. So this is a good thing for everybody.
That is staff's view, yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on the commission? Any questions? Seeing none?
Then I will remind you of
Thank
the
you.
statutory criteria in making your recommendation to the common council. 1, please pay reasonable regard to the comprehensive plan. 2, the current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each zoning district. 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction of Greenwood. And 5, responsible development and growth.
With that said, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion on PC 2023-068. I move that the petition for zone map change to rezone approximately 0.72 acres of land located at 1282 Greenwood Park Drive West within the city of Greenwood, Johnson County, Indiana, from commercial large to commercial medium as set forth therein, receive a favorable recommendation from this commission to the Greenwood Common Council, and at the same be certified to the Greenwood Common Council or presented commitments.
I don't think there were any recommended.
We have a motion by Mr. Walker, second by Monica. Any last questions or anything? Seeing none, all in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 9-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
The last item we have is not a public hearing. It's PC 2023-070 Subway Big B landscape waiver. would you please, it's not a public hearing, so you don't have to be sworn in, fine. First guy that's ready.
I'll still tell the truth.
Yeah.
My name's Andrew Barkosi with Barkosi Surveying, representing the owner and developer. Also have Matt Harrison here with Duke Commercial. If you have questions with he's handling the whole redevelopment of the site. This is 718 US 31. Used to be the old Captain D's building. The owner bought it and is trying to renovate it, bring it back so it's not such an eyesore. They're proposing to do a split use in the building, use the same building. It's going to have a Big B on one side and a Subway on the other. So we've been working with site plans and altering it, trying to keep as much as we can of the existing site, just to work that way. We've met all other site standards as best as possible. We are asking for a slight waiver along 31. Existing curbing to the right of way of US 31. It's just shy of 10 feet. For the ordinance, going to be a 5-foot perimeter buffering of perimeter parking, and then since this is a major corridor road, it actually requests another 10 feet on top of that. We're requesting just to have the remaining. It also kind of takes away, NDOT does not like sidewalks inside their right of way, so we actually have to put that on our lot as well, which reduces some of our space. So we're just asking to reduce that area. We're still going to give the required minimum plantings. They'll probably be shifted around the site, but we'll put as many as we can in the strip that we have on 131. The Smoky Bones is the site above it. This is exactly how they have it as well. We'll line up with their sidewalk. They have that exact same strip. And actually the Z-Bar to the south, it's not curved or anything or have a sidewalk, but it does have that same amount of give there too. So we're just asking for a little bit of lenience here so we can proceed with the site plan.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Nelson, do you have anything to add for the planning department?
Yeah, the staff is favorable of this recommendation. It is hard to achieve this in an existing site that has already been developed. This is running into our 20% rule where the landscaping for the site will have to be approved. This waiver would allow them to retrofit the site in order to meet the surrounding area, but also to still provide the pedestrian walkways that we all encourage, and also to provide still some landscaping space. I've been working with Andrew on this petition, preparing for this meeting. I think we started out with three waivers. We worked this down to one. Been very impressed with their willingness to try to meet the intent of our ordinance the best they can, and with that, recommend approval.
Any questions, comments from the commission?
Other than the staff report says it's in NDOT State Road 135 right away.
Yes, that was.
135.
I mean,
I did point that out.
Shauna did catch that one.
135's got a huge right. Right
So
up
am
from
I.
the west, smacks him in the back.
I was gonna say, I'm still impressed with the project.
That's a lot of plants. Willing to hear a motion.
Mr. President, I move to PC 2023-070. I move that the request of Shiv Real Estate for a waiver of the requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance, Greenwood Municipal Code, Chapter 10, Article 25, Division 3, generally applicable regulations, Section 10-3-6, landscape buffering, J parking lot, landscaping 2, perimeter parking lot, landscaping D, that specifies an additional 10-foot wide buffer area beyond the 5-foot landscape area between the parking lot landscaping and the edge of the right of way when the parking lot abuts a major thoroughfare, to reduce it to a 5-foot wide buffer area of required plantings that utilizes the required public sidewalk on US 31 as open space, because the constraints of the existing site limit to the ability to comply with landscape requirements and also meet required parking space and drive lane widths be approved, and that the plan commission find that the Shiv Real Estate has met the criteria set forth by the Greenwood Municipal Code, Section 10-4-3K, for the waiver, for the reasons set forth in its request for the waiver and as presented.
I'd like to reserve the option for a second on this. Monica, should she choose to second this.
Yes, second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Walker and a second by Monica. Any last comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 9-0.
We're ahead of you. We are.
That's January.
So this is the same.
Oh,
No.
you got it. Those are-
Oh, we have to.
I don't want to steal Gabe's thunder.
There was the boo-boo.
This is where he gets scapegoat.
Mr. Nelson, would you like
He
to
gets scapegoat.
explain the dual meeting schedule?
So for new business from the floor, I have passed around 2 schedules. One is, one has a highlight mark on February 12th. It's 3 down in the second column. That is a typo. It should be January 12th. Since we cannot have the submission of the application the same day as the hearing. This is a oversight and a typo, and I'm asking you to approve the second paper that I passed around without the highlighted mark that has the correct date as January 12th.
Motion to approve the updated list showing the third meeting, BZA rezoning application submittals being January 12th.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Lexi, second by Monica. All those in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Reduce meeting schedule passes 9-0. We have under announcements, I would like to make one announcement after, it's hard to believe someone this young has served this many years, but after a number of years serving
9.5 years on this
with the
commission.
Plan Commission, Monica is going to retire.
Oh,
And
not from the hospital, just from the commission.
but we thank you for all your dedication, your time, and your research that you provide. Thank you very much.
I have an announcement. Gentleman sitting in the back of the room at the staff table. This is Terry Swihart. He is our new assistant city attorney in the legal department, and I wanted you to meet him and get acquainted with him because he will be handling the BCA starting the first of the year, and who knows, he may have to cover the plan commission from time to time, and I wanted you to know who he was. So this is Terry Swihart.
Nice to
meet you.
Since the liquor store was turned down, that won't be an excuse.
Yeah.
For you. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. I guess we might as well take
And I spoke with David briefly beforehand. He is going to seek reappointment.
Gonna twist the other
to the
eight's
Plan
arms.
Commission. So hopefully we'll see you here next meeting. We'll see.
He'll watch things between now and then in May, that first council meeting. Be like, oh,
So since January 1st is on a Monday, the next hearing date will be January 8th. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you, everybody, for a good 2024. Yes.
Move to adjourn? Second.